Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chats. Marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are. If you think it's Get Rich Quick, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong live for you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well. Hey, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks. I can see one or two of you there already this morning, which is great. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining. Fabulous to see you on a fantastic, marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks. Hope you're well. Good to see you. Do the quick intros while we're warming things up on the old internet. Facebook and YouTube are live now. Jason Witten's my name. Most of you know that, though. If you don't, then good morning to you. Good morning to you if you're new or you're here for the first time. You might be one of our newer coaching and mentoring clients where we help people build property portfolios to create the desired cash flow and wealth that they want in the future. Usually that's between 5 and 7 properties, folks. It's not as many as you think when it comes to property investing. A lot of people want more, but you don't need more. But anyway, that's what we're up to. That you might have just joined. So if that's you, good morning. We do this about 10 past 8 each weekday. Myself and the team get in and host a show, Wealth Coffee Chats, all about property investing, residential property investing. Let's be clear. That's what we're doing. Morning, Rosie. And a few people pop along. Rosie and Scott. Justin, morning to you, mate. Jeff's always in the house. Good morning, Jeff. Brian pops along as well. Morning, Brian. Good to see you. Great to have you here, folks. It's awesome to hang out this morning for a little bit of a conversation, a bit of a chat, a Wealth Coffee Chat, matter of fact. So let's crack on with today's conversation. Thought we might talk about not all property is created equal in the eyes of the bank, folks. In the eyes of the bank. Interesting at the moment, unless you've been living under a rock, we have some pretty significant vacancy issues. Low vacancy in the world of property investing, residential property investing. Does anyone know what the national vacancy rate is at the moment? Put it in the chat if you think you do. Padam, morning to you. All the way from Melbourne. Fantastic. Got an office down in Melbourne. Great place to be. Come down and visit often, actually. I'm going to be down in a few weeks. Looking forward to that. Good morning. Do you know what the vacancy rate is, national vacancy rate at the moment is, folks? Well, it's pretty low. It's around the record lows. Yeah, Brian's in there having a crack, 1.1. And at the moment, it's a little bit higher than that, a smidgen, but
I wouldn't be, we're at sort of 1%. Now it's 1.3-ish, sort of trending up, trending down. It's been sort of bouncing around for a little bit. But, since 2022, low vacancy and vacancy rate falling from highs all the way to now, pretty well consistent record lows in the ones. Anything with a one in front of it, folks, is just ludicrous. And you have a look across the country, across the different capital cities. Canberra's in the twos now. Oh, twos, that's high. No, it's not. Check this out. Like, check out the vacancy rate a long time ago. Anyway, let's have a look at Sydney in the ones. Let's have a look at Darwin. The vacancy rates are low, folks. Look, under 1 in Darwin. Crazy times. And this is interesting, isn't it? Yeah. But you have a look and you go, well, that's interesting. Brisbane, under 1 at the moment. Oh, there we go. 1. Adelaide's low as well, down there, under 1. That's crazy. Anyway, what's the point of this conversation? What's the point of showing all this? Low vacancy, Melbourne. A lot of there's been a few conversations going around about types of property to purchase and rent out. Perth down. Check out the vacancy up here. Now, what happened in Perth in 2016? It sort of happened over here. The mining boom kind of bubble busted and vacancy increased all the way to record highs, and now down to almost record lows. So it's interesting when you go on these little journeys with property investing. But anyway, why do I say that? What's the conversation about? Not all properties are created equal. Well, then when there's low vacancy, different types of property become on the menu for investors often. Hey, good morning, yeah. Good to have you here as always. Different types of properties pop into the world of property investing, and people start to consider different types of properties. Now, we've got supply issues. Now, if you deal with a vacancy issue, you think you might be dealing with supply, and then it's not the same thing. Anyway, I'm sounding a bit cryptic, but let's have a conversation. Hey, I was just having a bit of a look on the weekend, checking out some info and data and whatever. And a lot of build to rent. I don't know if you know, there's two sort of sectors in the world of residential. There's build to sell, which is developers that build properties to sell them to, owner occupiers and investors. And then there's build to rent, developers who are going to build things to rent them out into the future. Now, is build to rent solving the supply issue? Well, it might be solving the rental issue, but it's not supplying the ownership issue in the world. And, there's a little bit of a trend going on of what types of things are built to rent. Now, here's a little bit of an interesting trend. I'll get to the conversation in a minute about not all properties are created equal. So stick with me here in the eyes of the banks, because as investors, for you and I, would this type of property be attractive to us? A 25 square meter apartment. Check out the layout. Pretty straightforward. Pretty well a hotel room, folks. Hotel room. 25 square meters. Now, if you're paying, 15,000 a square meter for something like that. Do the math on that one. Let's say, depending on where you are, if you wanted to buy it, let's say 15,000 a square meter. Someone might be able to do that off the top of their head, but I can't. So, 375,000. Let's say that's what you could buy that apartment for if it was on the market for sale. And some are, by the way, and it might rent for $500 a week. $500 a week. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. I've got a 1-bedroom plus study up in Brisbane, renting for $900 a week, fully furnished. Right, these are fully furnished. Now would that be a good investment? Chuck that in the chat for me. If you think, oh yeah, well that's great. A pretty straightforward investment. Hey, good morning, Catherine. that'd be attractive. Maybe that'd be good. Maybe that'd be positive cash flow. $6,000 a year, per annum. Awesome. I'm happy about that, right? Would that be something you would invest in? Would it be a good idea? Et cetera, et cetera. And this is what I get a little bit often when it comes to these higher cash flow conversations with this type of property. Now, this is being built by institutions, large institutions, the big developers, and they're going to keep these. So the big developers, if they're built, the company, I can't remember what the company's name is called now, but they're planning on building 6,000 of these. They own hotels. So they're planning on building 6,000 of these in, older commercial buildings that are, unwanted or whatever it might be. But anyway, would it be a good idea to invest in that type of thing? Now, the short answer is no. Okay, no. Why? When it comes to those types of properties, folks, put it in the chat if you're following along at home. Put in the chat those properties that are kind of attracted like to positive cash flow. What is a challenge or issue for them? Maybe put in the chat what a negative might be, because there's a bunch of different styles of properties that are attractive to investors because often they're inexpensive and they're high cash flow, but they have some other issues. Now, what types of properties are they? Number one, student accommodation. Student accommodation, not a great idea. Number two, like hotel slash, like rental pool combination type properties. Now, if you got a sort of it's like a hotel room or a holiday let or something like that. Maintenance high, they are higher for sure, but the cost to run them attached to those costs, Brian, not only the maintenance but also the management costs. So when you're renting them, room by room, or you're renting them, sometimes day by day. But with student accommodation, they turn over every term, student term. So you've got more maintenance, more cost, more management fees as you're going along. So you go sort of holiday letting, rental pool / holiday let. Now, when you look at the numbers, some of the costs, some of the price of these properties are like inexpensive, like 300, 400, 500,000. You're like, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful to own an apartment in the Whitsundays and use it a couple of months a year and et cetera, et cetera. And then you can rent it out the rest of the time. Now, it does sound fun, doesn't it? But it's not a good investment property, all right? That's for sure, for 99% of the time, 99% of the time. As we go along. CBD. So what's the problem with CBD? Now, CBD, when I talk about CBD, I talk about 000 postcodes, folks. 000 postcodes. What's the problem with 000 postcodes when it comes to properties? And 99% of the time, the problems are with apartments in 000 postcodes, folks. So put that there for me in the chat. What's the problem with 000 postcodes when it comes to this type of property? Student accommodation, hotel, rental pool, holiday let, or CBD locations, and at this moment in time, the build to rent, even if it was for sale, build to rent, what would that be? What would that look like? Well, all of those properties have some issues because the banks do not like lending you money on those ones. Yep, density issues. You're dead right, Brian. You're dead right. With the CBD locations, the supply and or / density, the ability for another building right next door to build, 1,000, 2,000, 6,000 apartments, all to be sold, is quite a risk in those double O locations, so triple O locations. And the zoning is an issue. You think, oh, zoning would be good. Well, certainly if you owned a commercial building there and the zoning changed and you could build, another 25 floors, fabulous. However, if you owned one single apartment there, until those cities get built out and densified beyond, where they are now, the 000 locations, the banks don't like them. So, and this is an interesting one. If the banks don't like them, they've got a good bit of data. Then we probably should steer away from them. Loan to value ratios. In all of these types of properties, what's the true standalone, folks, standalone loan to value ratio? What could you borrow maximum standalone on all of those? Now, I've done loans, but I've done over 10,000 loans for our clients over the years. The true standalone loan to value ratio, 60%, right? So the properties absorb more capital up front, more deposit. Now, for my money, that's not what you want. Okay, you don't want that up front. Okay, it's not a good use of your capital. For most of us, you put a lot of money in and you get a small amount of cash flow, if no cash flow out. Right now, with these properties, what limits the capital growth, especially for these ones? The student accommodation, the hotel rental pool, built to rent, which is all built around income, income cash flow. Their value is linked to the rent, Value is linked to the rent. Now, it's more a commercial arrangement, what's called a cap rate, folks, when it comes to the value of the property. The cap rate, right? Not exactly, not perfectly. Unlike commercial property, when you do increase the rent and stuff, the values tend to be a lot easier to extract capital growth. But the student accommodation, hotel rental pool, holiday letting, built to rent, if you were to buy them and they were just built for rental purposes only, they're not. The value is linked to the rent. Now the interesting, the curious part, the great part about residential real estate, houses and places people desire to live for their homes, folks, that's not connected to the value you can get from rent, right? So that for you and I is this kind of like, it's an unspoken or even an unobserved or unacknowledged thing in residential real estate, that the values aren't directly correlated to the rental return that you can create from the property. Okay, when the properties first start out, usually in the newer areas and whatever, usually there is a correlation. If you buy a property for $700,000, it should rent for about $700 a week. That's kind of like horses for courses, and depends on where you are and what type of property. If it's a bit older and it's in a desirable location, then it might be worth $1.5 million, but you can only rent it for $900 a week. So the rental yield is less. In a less desirable location, some of the regional locations, you might buy it for $700 and it might rent, or you might buy it for $500, it might rent for $700 a week, right? So it depends on where you are, but that's how it works. The value of your property is not, in residential land, is not connected to the rent. Now, that can be a great thing and it can be a rubbish thing, but that's what it is. So in this type of property, folks, where there's an attractiveness often to these things because they're cheaper, they look like on the surface they've got a good rental yield, better positive cash flow, etc. The underlying value of this type of asset is not worth having a look at. Okay, so steer clear of them. Basically, a big red cross for you and I. No, do not buy any of those types of properties and put them in your portfolio, folks. They are not going to help most property investors. 99.99% of people that I know who are building a really simple but powerful property investment portfolio, your 5 to 7 properties of about $3 to $4 million worth of value, that you want to double in value over the next 15 years and double in the rental income over the next 15 years. That's most property investors that I work with, and none of these types of properties, student accommodation, hotel, rental pool, holiday let, CBD, or build to rent, will help you do that in any way, shape, or form long-term for your value or your wealth. So steer clear of them, folks. Steer clear of them. But it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. If we go back to this original conversation here, you know, the government have lost sight of what they need to do to help the supply issues in this country, and they're letting institutions go and build pieces of shit, basically 25 square meter rubbish for people to live in, which is not going to fix the supply issues, folks. It's going to make institutions and publicly listed companies wealthy again. It takes away the opportunity for you and I as regular Aussies to invest in real estate and share in the wealth in this country. No, the government is fucking useless. And I'm not going to excuse the French. They're fucking useless. Got no idea. And then giving us less opportunity for wealth, and then lining the pockets of their buddies in the big institutions. It's, it's a bloody joke. Anyway, I'm not going to do that one. I'm not going to go on that because that's all I've got time for today, folks. But yeah, Rosie, don't go down that road. It won't help your wealth long term, and arguably it won't help your wealth short term either. None of those types of property is going to be much chop for you. All right, folks, that's it from me. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted. Join me tomorrow again. We'll have another conversation. As always, leave us a comment in the chat if you've got something that you've seen out there in the market that you want an opinion on, or you think's interesting. Let me know. More than happy to have a conversation about that as well. Anyway, there you go, folks. Done and dusted. Remember, this thing's a marathon, not a sprint. It takes time to build your property portfolio. Don't rush it, but don't muck around. It's this balancing act. Get on with it, but don't rush it. Anyway, there you go. Hey, Joe. Good morning. Queenslander. Love it. All right, folks, that's it. Done and dusted. Take care. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcasts, folks, as well as our other podcasts